Boris Johnson doesn't understand the meaning of Brexit with his European Union trade plans, Brussels sources have said. EU insiders claim the Prime Minister hasn't fully recognised what leaving the bloc means for Britain's future relationship. It comes after the first week of virtual trade negotiations between London and Brussels since talks were resumed in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic. Both sides have mulled over draft trade plans put forward by David Frost, the Prime Minister's lead negotiator, during a series of internet video conferences. The European Commission was sent draft proposals for a free trade agreement with chapters on aviation, nuclear and justice and security cooperation. But Michel Barnier, the EU's chief negotiator, is expected to publicly rebuke a number of these plans this afternoon. It is understood his army of they accused Mr. Frost of cherry-picking their perceived benefits of EU membership while refusing to take on the required obligations. EU sources said his plans to secure a close security relationship lacks recognition that Brexit means Britain will no longer have access to a number of the bloc's policing arrangements. One source even claimed the same theme runs through the heart of most of the UK's draft trade proposals. They said, it's a similar approach across the board, to be honest. According to a leaked German government report, Britain wants to maintain access to EU crime-fighting agency Europol's Central Intelligence Database as well as altering the bloc's passenger name record to include people travelling by rail and sea. The confidential dossier states the EU's current negotiating positions means these requests are not possible. In the negotiations, Mr. Frost has argued he is only seeking access to the EU's security arrangement. Britain has refused to allow itself to remain shackled to binding decisions by the European Court of Justice and to enshrine at the European Convention on Human Rights in the final agreement. The EU is demanding that Mr. Frost accept the ECHR and the European Court of Human Rights as the price for criminal justice cooperation. Last month Mr. Barnier said, they do not wish formally to commit to continuing to apply the ECHR, nor do they wish to permit the European Court of Justice to play its full role in interpreting EU law. This is serious. I say this is grave because if the UK's position does not move it will have an immediate and concrete effect on the level of ambition of our cooperation. Both sides have agreed to hold virtual talks 2 more times, in May and June, before a high-level discussion between Mr. Johnson and EU Commission President Downing Street has repeatedly warned the Prime Minister is prepared to leave the EU's single market and customs union with only loose trading relations unless Brussels agrees to compromise. As part of his strategy, Mr. Johnson has ordered his negotiator to make reclaiming Britain's sovereignty his main priority. In a speech at a Brussels university in February, Mr. Frost claimed the EU must live with the fact that Britain will be an independent and sovereign nation. He said, the only way forward is to build on the approach we want of a relationship of equals. Independence does not mean a limited degree of freedom in return for accepting some of the norms of the central power. It means independence. Just that. I recognize that some in Brussels might be uncomfortable with that, but the EU must find a way of relating to its neighbours as friends.